So our final guest, this ended up being romance night, sort of, uh, because our final guest is also a romance author. Her name is Siera London, and she's joining us for the first time. She hasn't been on the show before, but we're excited to have her on, and she has a new book out. So, Siera, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. You need to unmute.
Uh-oh.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm
Thank you for
delighted to
being
be
here.
here.
Well, you came across you came to our attention several weeks ago, and I actually ended up connecting with you through LaShera Lee, who's an agent and an author, and she represents a lot of people. So, and you published 40 books. That's an amazing feat in the last 9 years.
That is, wait, 40 books in 9 years. You must be doing nothing but writing.
Oh, if only that were true. It is not true, but I have been blessed that there's a lot of stories that I want to tell, and I've been able to get the words onto the page through the years.
Okay, now do you focus exclusively on romance, or do you kind of cross genres?
So yeah, so I do cross genres a little bit. I have written urban fantasy, I've written crime fiction. Of course, I also have romantic suspense. So yeah, I write a little bit of everything, but I will say that romance readers are voracious, and
Okay.
they demand books. So probably more than other genres. So, I go where I
Romance
want
readers,
to.
they demand books and they want them to fit the formula. If they don't fit the formula, they're not romance books.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, I think life has enough unhappy endings, so I'm not mad at romance readers. I mean, I'm a romance reader myself long before I was writing, so I appreciate knowing that at the end of me spending hours with this book, that somebody's gonna be happy. So,
Well, I guess that's one way of looking at it. I'm not really a romance reader. Although I do like Beverly Jenkins, but she does historical. And so I like the history angle that she puts in. And she does a lot. Her romance is strong in there, but she gives you some history that ties into whatever the romantic relationship is. And then at the end of the book, she explains the history that she's written into it. She gives you 3 or 4 pages of the background of whatever the event or city or whatever the situation was or the era. She gives you some backstory. So you learn a lot in her books too. So
yeah.
so tell us how you got started with writing.
Oh, okay. Oh gosh, there's so many false starts, but I'll say this. So I was in the Navy for 23 years. I was a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I've always used books as a way to kind of deal with what's happening in real life. After a 12-hour shift of saving lives, you just need somebody to save you, to rescue you, right? And so that's what books were for me. They were like that little escape. Like, it has been a bad day. I've had, great patients, but I've had some rough ones too, and some rough families. And I just need to replenish, and something just feels good. So I can do it all again the next day. And so my love for romance really came for that, because like I said, at the end of something really rough, you want something good, and romance kind of guarantees that, right? And so I've always wanted to write because I've always been an avid reader. And so when I got ready to retire from the military after like 23 years, I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book. And I only had one story to tell, just 4 characters, 4 ladies, one book to write. And I started writing that book on my lunch break every day for like 30 minutes. And my first novel, Chasing Ava, came out of that journey of just wanting to write that one book about this one character. And she's a nurse like me, and she's a great nurse, but she just didn't trust her judgment when it came to love because she had picked the wrong guy. And she had suffered the consequences for staying too long, right? Staying too long in a bad relationship. And I wrote that book and I self-published it, and the readers were there. They understood Ava's journey, they understood my voice, and they asked for more. And I just kept writing from there, from having that one story to tell.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service. And Rhonda's
Honored to do it
as well. And Rhonda, weren't you in for 23 years also?
Yes, I retired from the Army after 23 years.
Okay.
all right,
Is there something about the number 23? Is that where some benefits?
Well, a lot of people retire at 20 years, or they might retire at 30 years.
Okay.
But I did 23. And for me, there were reasons why I did the 23. You know, I was doing the math, and I wanted to make sure I was getting my 50% retirement. So I said, I'm gonna stay those extra couple of years. And I probably would have stayed longer, but you know, they say, you know, when it's time to leave, when you don't feel like you're having fun anymore. And you know, for me, I was working on my doctorate. My book career had relaunched because I kind of stopped doing my books because I was working on my doctorate. And so
yes.
since the doctorate was almost done, I started writing again. And so I'm like, okay, it's time to leave. I need to go ahead and pursue something new.
Yeah. So for us, so we're dual military. So my husband was also active duty, and we had spent like 5 years apart. Okay, at different duty stations. And at that time, we were in different countries.
Yes.
And
wow.
you know what? And we have a great marriage, but you know, distance, you know, some people say it makes the heart grow fonder. I know it's rough on the relationship. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And so we made the decision of like, okay, we need to put us first. And so I ended up transitioning out. My husband stayed, he did 34 years. So he just retired like early on in
34
the
years.
pandemic. Yeah, he did 34. And it was the right choice for our family, right? So so it worked out well for me. So I don't know if there's anything magic about 23 for everybody else, but for you and for me, it worked. So
well, absence that can make the heart grow fonder, as the saying goes, but it can't be too long.
yeah, distance is something. It's rough, like I said.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that would be a challenge for anybody. Having have a relationship on I guess back then it wasn't Skype or whatever.
Yeah, but I want to get back to what you were saying, Gwen. So you're talking about Miss Bev's book, and I actually just finished one of her books for an event she has coming up in July. I read Rebel, and I've been an avid fan of hers for years. But you said like how much you learn, and I feel like in any well-written book, it's more than like what's on the surface, right? Like romance, of course, is not romance is not just about physical intimacy. It's about that connection when that you make with someone when they get you on a deeper level, right? Beyond what you're just showing them on the surface, right? It's spending time with someone long enough that you can see past the veneer, past the mask. And I think in doing that well, like any romance author or author period, like you're gonna get more to the story, whether it's understanding somebody's mindset, their perception of how they see the world, about the setting that the book is taking place in, about their career. So whether it's historical or contemporary, or even a world where you're creating it, you know, like an urban fantasy, like for the reader, just like the author, there's a lot of research that goes into that, and that's going to come through the story. Like it's very rare you read a book and you learn nothing new, right? You're going to get something out of it beyond just whatever the genre it falls into.
Yeah, that's
like
true
what
for
you said, it's very rare that you were going to read a book and walk away with nothing, even if it's a fiction book, even if you're not trying to give us a message, so to speak, there's always going to be
Right.
something you're going to walk away with. And so I love that you said that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like in my latest book, Fake It Till You Make It, like this is a journey about two people from very different backgrounds, right? But they're on a journey to find their, their authentic self. What is the voice that they want to put into the world? And it's a journey that we all can relate to, right? We have so many people in our lives and in this storybook world too that's telling us who we are, what should be important to us, right? And where we fit in the world. And there are some people that fall into that mold and they can walk it out their whole lives. But for many of us, we have to find our own path. We have
Yes.
to find our own voice. We have to find what's most important to us and how do we manifest that in the world that we live in as we walk out each day. And that's the journey that Anne Marie and Eli are on, even though they don't realize it on the surface, right? They see themselves as being so different. Like there's no way that we can connect around anything.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get past the veneer, that fake it till you make it, what they're showing the world, you can see, you learn as you read the book that they're on a very similar journey.
Do you have a copy of the book with you?
Oh,
So you can show the cover.
look,
Okay.
I don't
All
know.
right.
Can y'all
Now
see
Okay,
it?
wait, put it right in front of you.
Then put it
Put it
close
right
to
in
you,
front of me.
close to your body, I think.
Yeah,
Close to my
there
body.
you
Okay,
go.
hold
Yeah.
on. Look, that's
Yeah,
so
there you
crazy.
Yeah,
go,
right
right
there.
there. Right
But
there.
now it's shining and we can't see the title.
Okay,
It
hold
is,
on.
but we can at least see
There we
the
oh there we go.
there you
Fake
go. That's all.
it.
Okay, look.
It was there. It was
There
there.
we go.
Okay, there
Fake
you
it till you
go.
make
There
it.
you go. Okay. Now is Sierra London your birth name
That's my
or
pen
your
name.
pseudonym? Okay. I just wonder, you don't have to tell us your given name. I just wondered if Sierra. Now, why did you pick Sierra London? Does that have some significance?
Oh, so actually, my husband and I we worked that out together. So,
Okay.
like I said, we both were on active duty when I started writing. And
Mhm.
when I said I wanted to write romance, my husband was like, "Oh goodness!" Like it's like the romances you read, or or something different. And I said, you know what? I'm just gonna write the story of my heart. And so he was like, I'd be more comfortable if you had a pen name. I was like, I think I might be more comfortable if I had a pen name, right? More importantly. So we are travelers. Like even separate from the military, we are like world travelers. So I knew a destination name would be in there somewhere. And we went through
Okay.
all kinds of names, y'all. We China, India, Montana, Savannah, like we were all over the globe trying to figure
Okay.
out a name. And then I was like, what about London? And he's like, oh, I like that. And it sounds kind of romancy too. Like it's kind of cute. I was like, okay.
Oh my
And then
goodness, he picked it out for you. I love
yes,
it.
and the first name, so Siera was easy because I had a friend when I was in seventh grade, y'all. I'm in my 50s now. In seventh grade, and her name was Evelyn Siera. And I was like, that is the coolest name. Like if I had to pick a new name, that would be it. And so that's where the Siera part came from a seventh grade friend who I thought, I'm like, you have a beautiful name. She just had a beautiful personality. And she was very stylish for a seventh grader, if there is such a thing. But
Well, I thought you were going to say Sierra Leone, even though it has two R's in it. But
yes,
that's what I was thinking you were connecting it to.
nope.
Once you told me it was about travel, but I thought it was actually your birthday. So, but that's why. So, but a lot of people write under pseudonyms because they want to keep their work life and their writing life separate and their personal life. You know, so
Yeah, yeah. And being an author, yes, you could do it a lifetime, but it is also a professional career. And at some point we all retire, right? And it's nice to be able to maybe retire the name and still have yourself out there in the world, like separate from Siera. Like,
Mhm.
under my name, nobody's really asking me about books or what I do or whatever, because I do keep them pretty separate.
Mhm.
And usually Sierra has a totally different look, y'all. But I had to wash my hair right before this. Like, she has a totally different hairstyle and wears different colors and everything. But so there's a little bit of overlap today, right, between me and Sierra. We're that girl. But it is nice to have kind of that a little bit of anonymity, right? So you could just
Yeah.
move on with life if you want to, separate the two, and ultimately one will come to an end and you'll continue on.
Well, I remember reading this quote from an author, and he said the best place for an author to hide is in a bookstore reading his own book. Nobody ever expects that would be the author.
Yes, yes. I so agree. It's so funny. I was in So this book is Walmart has just been a blessing to me because they ordered like 43,000 copies of this book for their shelves.
Wow.
And so I had run out, and Ingram had run out, and Amazon had run out. So I'm like, I literally got to go in Walmart to buy my own book to do a book signing. And the clerk was flipping it over, and she looks at my picture on the back, and then
Mhm.
she looks at me and she looks at that and she's like, huh. I was like, have you ever met an author and realized? She's like, I haven't. I said, you have today, because that's me and that's my book. And so she bought it right there on the spot. She's like, oh my
Oh.
gosh. She's like, turning to the other clerk. She's like, this is her. This is her book. She's like, I'm buying this book. I'm reading this book. So yeah, they do not expect that. Like, I'm buying my own book in Walmart.
Wow, that's
Beautiful
great.
thing though.
Mhm.
It's always exciting when you run into somebody, not a friend, not somebody you know has read the book. When you run into a complete stranger who has read your book. I remember one time I had like 2 or 3 books in my hand. Only one of them was mine.
Yeah.
And so I was going through the books, and a lady next to me said that book was good. And she pointed at my book and said, "You read this?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, thank you. This is my book." And I was
Yes, it never gets old. It
No,
never
it
gets
doesn't.
old.
It
Yeah.
doesn't. I tell people that because Rhonda and I are both authors. Uh, I tell aspiring authors or brand new authors that when you get your box of books, the new book,
Mhm.
it's exciting. It's the same level of excitement that it was when you did your first one.
It is.
It never gets old, seeing it's like a baby, not exactly, but in terms of the
But you know,
excitement,
it is like
you know,
you birthed your baby. I
it
mean,
is.
we say that all the time because
It
you
is.
nurtured this book for so
Yes.
many months,
You
and now
put
it's
yourself
finally done.
into this project,
Yes.
you know, and to see it come to life
Yes.
it's very exciting.
It is. It is. And that excitement never goes away. Like, every time a book like makes it out of my head onto the page and I get to like tear it apart and make it better, it's always exciting for me. I mean, it's work, y'all. Don't get me wrong now.
Yeah.
All aspiring writers out there, it is work to get this
Yes.
book out of your head and then tear it apart and make it better, and all the things that happen with editing and revision. But it's a beautiful thing to hold your book, to share your perspective on a story or character and have other people enjoy that with you. It's wonderful.
It is.
Absolutely.
And something else that's exciting when I'm out with my books, and I'll have not all of them. I normally will have at least 10. But when I say these are my books that I wrote, they say, "Wow, you wrote all these?" Because my books are different genres, so they're very varied. And so, I mean, the covers are different because it's based on, like, the children's books have a children's book cover. But
Right.
then, the adult books, or I have some self-help, spiritual, I have, I have a lot of different genres that I write under. And so that's exciting too. When people meet, you get to meet people who will buy your book because you wrote it. Not necessarily because they may not even read it. You know what I
That's
mean?
true. That's true.
But
They just want to support
they
you
just
because
want to
they write.
support you.
And
Yes.
I appreciate people who support, but I love when they actually read the book.
Me too. And
Agreed.
and
Agreed.
meeting with book clubs is a really fun thing to do because then you get multiple perspectives at one time. That's very exciting.
Yes,
So
I love book clubs. I love being invited to a book club
uh,
discussion about my book. And I know
right.
sometimes folks can be hesitant, but for the most part, I feel like we as authors have pretty thick skin, right? And so I appreciate other people's perspective on my characters, whether I agree with them or not, because ultimately I did write the story the way I saw best. But but it is nice to get other people's perspective on your characters. And sometimes it's just enlightening for me to see what readers get out of my story. Sometimes they open up avenues in my mind that I never considered for characters.
Right.
So that's
True.
the beauty of publishing and sharing your stories with the world.
That's true. And sometimes I know I met with the book club recently. It's been in the last month or so for my newest novel, uh, Exodus from Treachery. And while we were talking about the book, she pointed something out that was an error. It was the wrong name. It should have been Stephanie and it was Shirley or vice versa. And I had an editor read it. Before I got out, I read it. I had multiple book clubs read it. Nobody else found it was a mistake that was easy to overlook, which is why it got overlooked. But
Yes.
because I published my book under Amazon KDP, I fixed it. You can fix an error and re-upload the ebook. And I didn't have that much inventory. So but this lady, and in fact, it was only one person that noticed it. The other people didn't notice it. And we were talking about it, and they said that she's the person that can find anything like a needle in a haystack. She's one of their members
I
that can.
love that.
I
I love
appreciated
that.
it because I was able to fix it. And then, but people, you can read over errors in major books. They have
True.
mistakes. I find them all the time in
Yes.
Yeah, don't beat yourself
big
up over
publishers. Oh,
I
I
agree.
know. I was surprised. I was surprised she found it because I read my books word for word before. Like I'm the last. I have an editor, and then once her editor done, I go back and get a proof. I read my book word for word, if so I can catch any little things here and there before I release it. And so it just happens. So Siera, now you have 40 books.
Mhm.
Are these all individual? Is it a series? Do you have series? How
That's
have
a
you been
great
able to
question.
do
So I
in
do
nine
have
years? That's a
8
lot of
different
books.
series.
8?
I have 8 different series, and all of my books can be read as standalones. That's just
Okay.
the way I write. I want a complete story. I'm not the best with cliffhangers, y'all, so I tend to not write them. So if
Okay.
you pick up one of my books in any of the series, where you start is going to be a complete book, and you can go back and meet the other characters that mentioned. But I love crossing story worlds. So even if you start with like Chasing Ava, which is the Bachelors of Shell Cove series, if you go and read my Lunchtime Chronicles series, you'll see that Lucy's bridal shop is in the same town where Ava lives. And if you make it to book 5, you'll see that Lucy helped design Ava's wedding dress. And you'll see that Ramsey in the Lunchtime series, you'll see him in the Men of Endurance series, which is my small town series that features all single dads, right? Finding their happily ever after, the Men of Endurance. So
Oh,
there's a subtle overlap between the settings, and I try to connect character worlds across series. Like maybe you went to college with this person or you work with them at some point and you'll see them pop up in another series. You go, oh, I remember that character from the other series, and now they have their story. So I enjoy doing that just because, again, romance is about connection and intimacy, right?
Yes.
So, but it's not just physical intimacy. It's feeling like I know this place, I know this town, I know these people more than just the couple you're reading about. Like, oh, I know her mom, I know her dad. And so to be able to see them maybe at an earlier point in their lives or with different characters, it just enriches the journey for me as an author, but also as a reader. Because I'm my first reader, like you said, when you read your books, you are your first reader. I'm my first reader too.
Yeah, I read them word for word because I want to make sure that mistakes are non-existent or minimal, at least, because I'm a stickler about that. If I pick up a book and it's not edited, I'm gonna be out of there. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna keep going. And I just can't, it just, obvious mistakes. I don't mean like little things, but obvious things. Tony Benita said The Men of Endurance is a good series. Tony Benita is one of our regular viewers, and she's
We
also
love
a
us some
president of a
Tony
book
Benita.
club.
Thank you, Ma Tony. I appreciate that.
So you know Mama Tony.
I do.
Okay,
Like I said, I've been around a minute now.
Okay, well, yeah, she knows everybody.
She does. And she's good to us all too. So you're gonna remember her.
Yes. Now your new book, Fake It Till You Make It, is it part of a series?
So this is the first book in the series. This is a new series, right?
Okay, all right.
Yes, and Anne-Marie and Eli's story is first, Noah and Rachel up next. So that's basically the boy next door, girl next door, farmer's daughter. So there's a few fun things in there to play with. But yes, it's the first book. It's a 3-book deal. So this book is my first traditional release. So my previous books are all indie published. So this is my first traditionally published book with Avon, which is an imprint of Hachette.
Okay. Oh, well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Moving into the big league, so to speak. So
well, look, big leagues are where you make them, right? So I am not sleeping on my indie brothers and sisters and friends, because the beautiful thing about writing is we as readers, we just want a good book, y'all. We don't care if you published it, if your mama published it, the lady next door, big press, small press. We just want a good story. And yeah, so I think all that other stuff, like, that's a part of the business side of it. But from a reader standpoint, like, they're like, oh, I'm going to read this book because Siera traditionally published. No, I wanted to read it because you love my voice, you love my stories, and you trust me with your time.
Okay, well, Siera, it was great meeting you, and thank you for being a guest on the show, and continued success with all of your writing. You have an amazing career you've had.
Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure, ladies. And like, I'll see y'all between the pages, right? We got to get these books written.
Okay. You're right.
Between the pages.
Yes. Bye now.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you.